let's get into it. The truth about drones. So what you would notice if you've been paying attention the last week is all the legacy media is on the same sheet of music. And this drone story, first coming out of New Jersey, now spotted in Connecticut and North Carolina, and a lot of places throughout the country, makes me immediately ask, why? Why is it that conservative and liberal media are pushing a story so hard? And the press, again, the legacy press, is pushing the White House and the government so hard to answer these questions. There's talk about, just like we had the Chinese spy balloon make itself known to the public in daylight and then migrating across the country, eventually shot down in the Atlantic. There's a lot of speculation that this potentially is a foreign adversary spying on our nation. And so I'm going to offer you guys some perspective on that based on a lot of experience with drones. So a portion of my military career, specializing in recon and surveillance, I had to go to all these drone courses. I had to learn how to fly drones, how to teach people how to fly drones. I even did testing and evaluation for drone programs with DARPA. And so my experience in drones is a little outdated because the evolution of drones has certainly surged in recent years, where drones would be typically utilized for surveillance and reconnaissance to gain situational awareness, where you could have a big drone that you could launch from a fire base to do a route reconnaissance, to a small drone like the Wasp from avionics that you could hand launch, to a micro drone that you could throw in a house, and special weapons and tactics or operators could utilize it to go down hallways and into rooms before risking the lives of human beings. Ukraine has become a R&D campaign for drone technology, where drones aren't just utilized to do surveillance, they're being utilized to do direct combat and very precise, I would say at this point in the campaign, very precise and pointed attacks. So drones have changed. When I was into drones and I was flying them on operations, going to training, and then staying up on the technology, it was mostly fixed wing drones. It was like an airplane. It had wings, it had a prop or a propeller, and you had limitations and constraints. The evolution of that is, for lack of better terminology, rotary wing drones that are able to hover, get more precise by sitting static above an objective or target. So all that to say, I have a lot of experience around drones and their use, not only by the Department of Defense, government organizations, but also how that's utilized by foreign adversaries. Now, some of it's outdated because the technology has changed rapidly, but I try to stay up on that technology. And so just a few observations. I've seen 30 videos on these drones. Most of the videos that you see, 99% of the ones that I've saw, are shot at night. Most of the videos are also shot at night in clouds. And most of the drones that are captured are illuminated. Also, most of the drones that are illuminated, meaning they have flashing lights, appear to be flying in a very specific trajectory or path, a very specific flight path like it's a fixed wing aircraft. So let's set that aside. Let's set that aside for a second. Over the last week and a half, especially, there's been congressional hearings, legacy media reports, and sightings to include fake AI video embedded in the conversation that has propagated this material everywhere. And everybody's talking about it. Several people close to me have even contacted me and asked me my opinion on it. So here's a couple things. Do I think a foreign adversary is flying drones to spy on America? The answer is no. Well, why is that? One, Google Earth is a better surveillance option for establishing an overhead view or perspective of what's going on the ground, to include government organizations. Two, most foreign adversaries, although they have drone technology, are not going to utilize fixed-wing drones at night with illuminating lights. The purpose of the illuminating lights, the lights that go on and off and on and off, or in some cases are on and then they flash and then they're off, in various colors, by the way, are to tell other aircraft around them, manned or unmanned, because you could obviously see through the pod, you know, the video camera component that you might be monitoring in the remote, so you don't run into each other. Or so another aircraft that's manned potentially doesn't run into it. And so why would a foreign adversary utilize a drone at night with minimal capabilities at night to see? Remember, when it's dark and you're looking down into darkness, even with infrared technology, let's just say night vision, you need light. You actually need ambient light in order to see the ground. And when you see that, you're going to see it in green and black contrast. In white phosphorus, you'll see it in white and black contrast. So why would you do that at night? You're also limited in the distance of that drone or that aircraft and how far it is away from the ground. The further you are away, the less you could see. Even the most advanced imagery, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft in the military, which have massive, robust pods that have different type of imagery, including FLIR cameras, the ability to see heat on the ground, the ability to infrared sparkle the earth to designate a target with a small laser or an illumination of a flood of light in infrared, cannot discern many things from an elevated position, from flying up in the sky. To make it more difficult, because of the small form factor, imagine trying to see on the ground at night with infrared while flying in orbit via fixed wing. And a lot of these drones that I've seen have been flying on a trajectory, not just hovering. You know, hovering obviously would be easier to see. But again, you're limited, because the limitation on infrared technology in that spectrum is when you start to magnify again and again and again, you start to deteriorate the image and it gets pixelated. So even if you have a doubler, a magnifier of some kind, you're magnifying at the lens and you're just blowing out the pixels. So there's not a distinct advantage, and I would say the technology is pretty limited on doing surveillance at night with an infrared pod. Even if they were using thermal technology, like a thermal FLIR technology to be able to see the ground, they would only be able to contrast that heat and not likely be able to discern what they're seeing. I worked with several companies in the military to design and acquire very robust handheld versions of this that included FLIR technology, thermal, the ability to vis and infrared designate a target with a laser, infrared laser or visible laser. And even that robust system, which at the time cost $50,000, it was hard and difficult to identify friend from foe from only 100 plus yards or meters. I know the technology has changed, but again, the problem that we have here is we're talking probabilities. Why would a foreign adversary fly a fixed wing drone with illuminated lights with limited capability to see the ground because they're flying at night? The answer is, and the truth is, they wouldn't. Most of the images and videos that I've seen appear to be, in my opinion, either commercial drones, obviously the ones that you would buy where you're not being covert because the drone has lights that flash on it, right? Or commercial aircraft. Like I've seen videos where people are like, look at this drone, and you could literally see the engines on the wings as it's flying through clouds, and it has flashing lights underneath it, and you could see the wings. And people are like, look at this drone. It's like, that's an airplane. So majorly, the biggest speculation that I have in this entire situation is, for the first time in a very long time, the legacy media, both liberal, let's call it Democrat or liberal, and leftist, with conservative news organizations, basically Fox, are reporting the same exact things. This hysteria over drone sightings across the country, and you typically never see that. So my concern is, what are we missing? Because if we're watching stories on drones, what is this distracting us from? Is it distracting us from the situation in Syria, which is very serious and very complicated and deals a lot with the future of our country, the national security of our nation? Is it the fact that Iran is right now only weeks away from making a nuclear weapon and we're potentially not paying attention? Is it the war in Ukraine? Is it the economy? What is it? Because a lot of airtime is being committed to this, and that concerns me. That's concerning to me. Because anytime the national media across the board has the same production notes and talking points, they are distracting you from something very significant and important. Now, what I do like, especially with the congressional hearings and them, the press talking to the White House about this, is we are way behind in near peer adversaries in identifying tactics, techniques, and procedures to stop not just drone and surveillance from foreign adversaries, but the use of drones by domestic and foreign terrorist organizations or criminal elements that are going to use those drones to attack us. There are drones right now being utilized in Ukraine that can carry a payload and drop a bomb on your head. Imagine one of those drones carrying a larger payload and infiltrating into a public space, a football game, a national televised event, a concert, a public venue. The list goes on. How would there be any way to stop that? You load the munition on the drone, you fly it into the public square, the public space, you detonate it. There's no material evidence besides the pieces of shrapnel, and you can't stop it. That is a huge problem. We are way behind as a nation as a government and national security and public security on figuring out ways to stop this. Like I've heard people say out loud in the national media, also people who have posted videos, also people who are commenting, saying, why don't we just shoot down the drone? So I've been in many countries where for celebration, they shoot AK-47s in the air. Name any nation in the Middle East. They do that at weddings, for example. What happens when you shoot 7.62 by 39 up in the air? Those rounds come down somewhere. And there's many reports in places that I was deployed of people getting injured or killed by those munitions falling to the ground. You just can't unload a bullet of some kind, and even an anti-aircraft round, especially, let's say 12.7, 14.5. Between 12.7 and 14.5, you're shooting a 50 cal up in the air. What goes up must come down. And if you hit that vehicle and it's actually manned and it's somebody just flying around recreationally, that could be a problem. And if that drone or aircraft is shot down, it's going to likely come down in public areas where there's people. So there's a lot of complication in that. But the national conversation is very important because we need new tactics as individuals, I think, as community members, as law enforcement, as national security organizations, to be able to stop these attacks from these people, because the technology is out there and it's not hard to get your hands on, and putting a payload on these things to hurt people could be the potential future. Can you imagine one successful attack, what that would look like for just the recreational use of drones? You wouldn't even be able to buy a DJI in Best Buy because the entire nation's air would be shut down. They wouldn't allow you to fly a drone for anything. So we need to be able to mitigate this, and we need to get to the bottom of this. I'm not saying this isn't something. What I'm saying it's less likely to be is a foreign adversary. It just doesn't make sense. If you're going to do a covert operation in surveillance or reconnaissance, you're not going to fly an overt drone over a public area illuminated with Christmas lights, and you're not going to use a fixed wing version of it at night. You're just not going to do that, guys. You're just not going to do that. So we got to get to the bottom of it. I'm more concerned about what we're missing. You let me know what you think in the comments down below. I just wanted to give you my 2 cents after I'm back from Vegas. I just got out of the sweat tent, 200 degrees for 20 minutes, 2 10-minute rounds at 200 degrees. That video is going to go up this week, so if you're interested in getting a sweat tent or some type of sauna, I talk about the protocol and the setup of it. I also got a gear and review video that I'm going to do probably every month on the Philcraft Survival channel. I get a lot of gear. The wellness company I'm working with on getting prescription meds to your front door without having to see a doc. Starlink stuff, tents that I'm testing out this weekend. So every month I'll likely do a gear and review that's prepper gear that I've down selected that's good equipment. I'm not going to talk about the stuff that sucks because there's no point. Guys, I appreciate you. Gunfighter Pistol, the program is available on Patreon for my Tier 1 members. The first pistol and carbine already sold out. I got team room to film tomorrow. Got a whole bunch of stuff to look forward to this week. I want to say thank you so much for tuning back into the Mike Glover Show. That is back up as well. And we're going to have a good week this week. Till next time, peace out.